Hello, happy Hump Day, my friends, and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. I'm your host today, David On Point, and I'm Ron Solo today as we breaking down week number 15 when it comes to the world of fantasy football. I've made it to the playoffs in 4 of my leagues in fantasy. Hopefully, you guys have all made playoffs in your leagues in fantasy. You can continue to be trucking along. Even in my eliminator playoff league, I made it to the playoffs, so I'm pretty happy about that. This is week number 15. Without wasting any more time, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We bring content basically every single day, including Friday, where we bring you the college football show. So keep an eye out for that content. Let's jump right into our rankings. Just my rankings today. Izzy will maybe post his online, but unfortunately, could not make it on this show. He's feeling a little bit under the weather. Hopefully, he feels better in the near future. But yeah, I'm David Huppin. Let's get into my fantasy football rankings. And let's start with those pass throwers. Let's start with my number 1 quarterback, Josh Allen, going up against the Dallas Cowboys. Josh Allen is on a mission to will this team. Also, if you have any questions about who to start, if you're in the playoffs in your fantasy football league, if questions about who to start, I will. If you drop those questions down in the comment section, I will address them as I go through the show. So please ask me any questions you may have. Number 1, I got Josh Allen. 2, Dak Prescott in that same game, going up against Josh Allen. Dak Prescott's been on another level this season. 3, Brock Purdy. That's a great matchup going up against Arizona. Should put up big numbers in that game. 4, Lamar Jackson. Yeah, he's going up with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but they have given up big numbers to quarterbacks in the past few weeks, including to Jake Browning and Wacko for Flacco, Joe Flacco. Lamar Jackson should feast on that defense. 5, Jalen Hurts. Yeah, a little bit lower on Jalen Hurts, but going up against the Seattle Seahawks defense that needs to win a game. He wasn't particularly good against Dallas, so hope maybe he mounts back. He's still in my top 5, but a little bit lower than he would be normally. 6, Justin Fields. Yes, that is a very tough defense there in Cleveland, but I think Justin Fields will have a good game. 7, Patrick Mahomes. He just hasn't been the Patrick Mahomes this season. It's been a little bit underwhelming when it comes to the big numbers at the quarterback position. He could look to bounce back against a bad New England team, but we'll see what ends up happening there. 8, Sam Howell. 9, Matthew Stafford going up against head-to-head. I expect it to be a high-scoring affair. Russell Wilson, that Detroit Lions defense has not been good at all the last month or so. Russell Wilson should have a good game there going against the Detroit Lions. And then my outside looking in, I got the guy, man himself, Jake Browning. Going up against the Minnesota Vikings, that defense has been susceptible to the offense, especially in the passing game. Not so much last week as they give up 0 points, but I think that could be a high-scoring game again there against Cincinnati and Minnesota. And then Joe Flacco and Kyler Murray. Expect him to get a lot of points in garbage time going up against the San Francisco 49ers. And then my sneaky and daily is Joe Flacco at 5,500 going up against my Chicago Bears. That defense can be had, but they've been better as of late. Joe Flacco could have a monster game through the air against the Chicago Bears. And look, it's my cat here. Hello, Pace. I know, I have to feed you. I'll feed you as soon as the show's done. Moving on from the quarterback position, let's talk about them running backs. Moving on to the running backs, we got Alvin Kamara as my number 1 guy. He just has been on a little bit of a tear for the New Orleans Saints. One consistent point of that offense so far this season. And then I got Bijan Robinson at number 2. Atlanta, I think they noticed that if they want to win games so far this NFL season, they got to give the rock to Bijan Robinson. 3, Christian McCaffrey has been so consistent this season. 4, Raheem Mostert. I will not make the mistake of start putting you on my bench again. Basically cost me a fantasy matchup having Raheem Mostert on my bench. It started Josh Jacobs over him. Not a good decision whatsoever. 5, Derrick Henry always seems to kill the Houston Texans, especially if a Texans team that may not have their quarterback. So keep an eye out for that status of C.J. Stroud before you set up Derrick Henry in your lineup. But if Derrick Henry's going to be good to go, he always feasts on the Houston Texans. 6, Saquon Barkley had a massive game against the Green Bay Packers. Wasn't for that fumble. Who knows what his stat line could have looked like. Big game for Saquon Barkley. 7, Kyron Williams going up against a bad defense there in Washington. 8, Austin Eckler. With Justin Herbert being done for the season, he's probably going to be relied on to be the entire offense there for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think they're going to feed him the rock a lot. And 9, James Cook. I think Buffalo has found out, hey, when we give James Cook the football 20 plus times in a game, we usually win. I think they'll use that method to try to beat the Dallas Cowboys as they try to keep their playoff hopes alive. And then 10, Joe Mixon, same thing. You got a quarterback pretty inexperienced there, and Jake Browning. I think you're going to want to feed the rock to Joe Mixon, who has been pretty good this season so far. And then from the outside looking in, I got Rachaad White, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's been one of the lone bright spots of that offense outside of Mike Evans. He's been low-key one of the top 10 running backs so far this season. 2, Travis Etienne, going up against a tough Baltimore Ravens defense. And then Tony Pollard going up against the Buffalo Bills. And then my sneaky and dailies, Damian Pierce. Finally saw a touchdown out of him last week. If they do not have C.J. Stroud, I expect them to lean on that running game pretty heavily with Devin Singletary and him. And then we saw Miles Sanders sighting last week against the Carolina Panthers. Finally had 70 yards rushing, probably his best game of the season. And I think, you paid this guy a bunch of money. I think they're going to give him the rock a bunch of times this season. On the stretch here, Miles Sanders at 4,400 and Damian Pierce at 4,700. Pretty cheap options when it comes to the running back position, when it comes to daily on DraftKings. And then from the Rock Toters, we got our first set of pass catchers. I got Deebo Samuel as my number 1 wide receiver. He's just been an absolute tear this season. Deebo Samuel, last 2 weeks, I think he's got 5 touchdowns the last 2 weeks, or maybe 6. They know he had a hat trick 2 weeks ago, and then he had at least 1 or at least 2. Yeah, 2. So 5 touchdowns in 2 weeks. Deebo Samuel has been on another level the last month of the season. Basically since he's been healthy there for the San Francisco 49ers. Keep rolling him into your offense. Tyreek Hill, a little bit concerned about his injury. But the fact that he came back in that game against the Tennessee Titans makes me feel safe enough to put him in my top 3. Tyreek Hill, has been the most important player in the NFL this season when it comes to the Miami Dolphins. CeeDee Lamb, he's just been, again, another guy who's just been super consistent this year going up against the Buffalo Bills. A.J. Brown. Then we got the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the Detroit Lions going up against a pretty stingy pass defense there in the Denver Broncos. But I still think Amon-Ra St. Brown has some really good value there for the Detroit Lions. 6, Stephon Diggs. I think he's going to look to try to bounce back off of what's a pretty abysmal performance there against the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think the Dallas Cowboys, they have Deron Bland, but I think you can get him in the air. Cortland Sutton has been on a straight burner this season so far. He's just been catching crazy touchdowns basically from anywhere, all over the place. Give me Cortland Sutton at the Denver Broncos. 8, DJ Moore of my Chicago Bears. Look for him to have a good game there against the Cleveland Browns as the Bears try to make a way to the Super Bowl eventually. And then Michael Pittman Jr. for the Indianapolis Colts going against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Him and Gardner Minshew seem to have a really good rapport with each other. Then Mike Evans, from Michael to Mike. Mike Evans, another one of those big focal points of the Tampa Bay Buccaneer offense. I don't know what that offense would look like without Mike Evans. And then outside looking in, I got Cooper Kupp. So they seem to have a really good pour there in the Los Angeles Rams with Puka Nacua. Cooper Kupp over the century mark last week. And then DeAndre Hopkins also had a fantastic game with Levis as the quarterback. That touchdown he caught towards the end was ridiculous for DeAndre Hopkins. 3, Devontae Adams. It's been a down season for Devontae Adams, but he still has nearly 1,000 yards. He's been the number 1 wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders. And then my sneaky and daily, I got Wan'Dale Robinson. If you watch Monday Night Football, there seems to be a definite rapport there with Tommy DeVito, as he's only 3,700 on DraftKings. And Michael Gallup, who got a touchdown last week from Dak Prescott, 3,300 on DraftKings. Pretty good value at the wide receiver position, especially the Wan'Dale Robinson one. I think that's a plug and play. I think Wan'Dale Robinson I think he's only going to get better as the season goes on. Look for him to continue to play pretty well for the New York Football Giants. And Christian Simpson's going to love that too. And then from the first set of pass catchers, we got the second set. We got those little bit bulkier ones, those tight ends. Number 1, I got Travis Kelce. Also probably trying to bounce back, which was not a Travis Kelce-esque performance there against the Buffalo Bills. He'll try to bounce back against the New England Patriots. He's Travis Kelce though. I mean, if you have him on your team, you're playing him. 2, George Kittle, also a guy who's kind of been on a little bit of a burner so far the last couple of weeks. Caught a really nice touchdown last week. George Kittle, good football player. 3, Evan Ingram, 2 touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. Has just been a PPR monster there for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And as long as Christian Kirk remains out for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Evan Ingram is a must start if you are in fantasy playing in the finals or in the playoffs or however your team plays format your league happens to be in, Evan Ingram is a absolute must start in all formats, no matter what. For Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys, yeah, he's been pretty good this season. I think he's had a touchdown at last 3 weeks in a row. Then TJ Hawkinson a little bit lower on him than I have been in previous weeks. I just don't love the quarterback situation there in Minnesota with Nick Mullins now getting the start. Joshua Dobbs was not good at all last week against the Raiders. I just think that's a tough situation for TJ Hawkinson. And then Sam Laporta, the Bears kind of bottled him up a little bit last week. I think the Bears and the Packers and kind of showed a blueprint how to handle the Detroit Lions. Sam Laporta still in my top 10, but I would be wary of him. If I had a guy like Evan Ingram or Jake Ferguson, I think I'd start him over Sam Laporta. And then David Njoku, I also consider David. Sorry, David. He had 2 touchdowns in the first half of that game against the Indianapolis Colts last week. Cleveland is David Njoku is a must start too. Cole Kmet. So I think he's going to have a lot of blocking responsibilities in this game against the Cleveland Browns. But if he can get loose and get some touchdown, he's been one of Justin Fields' most valuable weapons so far this season. So I think if you could have an opportunity to start Cole Kmet, I do think he's going to have to block with Myles Garrett there on the Cleveland Browns on the outside. But Cole Kmet should be a good guy to start there. Trey McBride's been awesome in his second season, especially under Kyler Murray. He's leads the team in targets since then. And then Hunter Henry, I know it's not his birthday, but I also don't think he's going to have 2 touchdowns, but I think Hunter Henry is a guy you can plug and play for this week in fantasy. And then my outside looking in, Isaiah Likely. I also imagine the Jacksonville Jaguars will remember to guard him. He will not just be wide open, streaking down the field, but who knows? To Dallas Goedert. Yeah, ever since he came back from the forearm injury, he looked okay against the Dallas Cowboys, but nobody in that offense really looked all that good for the Jets in last week, or for the Eagles, sorry. So I would probably roll him back into your lineup, but he's just outside looking in. And then Dalton Kincaid, nice rapport there with Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid, the tight end for the Buffalo Bills. And then my sneaky and daily, yeah, I'm rolling the clock back. And no, it's not 2005. It is 2023, and I got Mercedes Lewis as my sneaky and daily at 2,500. I think the Chicago Bears are going to play a lot of 2 tight end sets against the Cleveland Browns for reasons for blocking purposes. I think Mercedes Lewis will sneak out in some of those passing routes. I think he gets his touchdown against the Cleveland Browns. Mercedes Lewis is my sneaky and daily at 2,500. Take that to the bank. And we're all tapped out when it comes to the pass catch offensive players. We got to swing on over to the other side. Let's talk a little bit about them defenses. My number 1 defense is San Francisco 49ers going up against the Arizona Cardinals and Kyler Murray. I think this is a defense that's going to feast on that offense. Kansas City, they're going to look to bounce back, which actually was a solid defensive performance from them. But going up against the New England Patriots and Bailey Zappi, I think they should be able to have a field day against that offense. 3, Miami Dolphins. I did not expect Zach Wilson to put together 2 performances in a row, highlight reel performances there this season. Miami Dolphins. 4, the Atlanta Falcons going up against Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers. 5, New Orleans Saints. I gotta look that up now. I don't remember who they're playing. Sorry, the Giants. Tommy DeVito's been a nice story for the New York Giants, but I still think that offense has at least a lot to be desired. I think the Saints defense is pretty good so far this season, and I think they'll bottle up Saquon Barkley. Then my outside looking, they got the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Seattle Seahawks, even though that could be a shootout. But look for Drew Lock or Geno Smith, whoever the quarterback happens to be, to make a couple mistakes, and the Eagles get a pick 6 or a fumble recovery for a touchdown. 2 Cincinnati Bengals going against the Minnesota Vikings and Nick Mullins. I think that's a good matchup for Cincinnati. And then they've got the Colts going up against Mitchell Trubisky and the Pittsburgh Steelers there on Saturday afternoon. I think that's a good matchup for the Indianapolis Colts in that defense. That might sneaky a daily. Am I a homer? Maybe. But I got the Chicago Bears at 3,300. I think the Chicago Bears going up against Joe Flacco and the Cleveland Browns. I think they can force him into some mistakes there. And I think the Chicago Bears are going to be good. They've been pretty good, actually. Ever since Montez Sweat came over, they've been generating consistent pass rush. So I think the Chicago Bears are going to be my sneaky and daily when it comes to fantasy football this week in DraftKings. So hopefully, some of those suggestions help you win your matchup. Hopefully it helps you get into the playoffs in whatever league you happen to be in. Good luck with all of that. I need to basically not lose by more than 100 in order to be a get a bye in a league, so I'm going to try to bank on that. We'll see what ends up happening. Let's talk about who I think will be the highest scorer in fantasy this given week. Last week, it was Deebo Samuel with 34 points. He had 1 touchdown on the ground. He had 1 through the air. He also had 7 catches for 149 yards. Rounded out the top 5, Evan Ingram, Lamar Jackson, Drake London, and then David Njoku, top 5 when it comes to fantasy scorers in week number 14. Let's talk about week number 15, though. Who I think will be the number 1 scorer? I'm going to go Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen is going to be the number, when it's all said and done, when this week is over, I think Josh Allen will be the number 1 scorer in fantasy. I just think that he's going to put this team on his back. He's going to do the Greg Jennings. If you guys know the video I'm talking about, go check out that video with Greg Jennings. He's going to put it on his back, though. I don't think he's going to have to do it with a broken leg, but yeah, that video is fantastic if you have not seen it. But yeah, I'm going to go Josh Allen. I think he puts the team on his back. I think they beat the Dallas Cowboys as well. Also, if you want to see, go over the Daily Blitz blog. Today is Christian Simpson's birthday, so happy birthday, Christian. Yeah, so he's posting. I think he posted the preview of the Dallas Bills game is tomorrow, and I think the preview of the Baltimore Ravens Jaguars game I think is either today or Friday, or it was already posted somewhere. So go look for that content. Also keep plugging into Prime Sports World. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. I've been David Huffman. Thank you very much for checking us out here. We'll be back here on Friday when Izzy is going to break down college football for you, or he may do his college basketball show. But either way, just keep out for that content. I've been David Huffman. You all stay safe. And what we do here at the Prom, my friends. That's right. We bring the heat. Take it easy. And we could use some heat here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's for sure.